Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily strategic briefing. It is Friday, March 13th, 2026. I'm your co-host, Anna. Today's special is sponsored by DjamgaMind. If you want to skip the ads and get this intelligence straight to your ears, click the link in our show notes for our premium DjamgaMind feed. For years, healthcare AI was a search engine with a pulse. Today, Microsoft changed the job description. With Copilot Health, we are seeing the birth of medical superintelligence, a system that uses System 2 reasoning to act as a stateful clinical partner. We are unraveling how this tech outdiagnoses human panels, how the MIRA model fuses your Aura Ring data with your hospital records, and why the $599 MacBook Neo might be the new home for your digital twin. Let's get into the news.
So imagine a panel of just the most elite, highly specialized human doctors in the world.
Right, the absolute best of the best.
Exactly. And you hand them a stack of the most baffling, complex, multi-system medical mysteries ever recorded in clinical literature.
Like the kind of cases that stump entire hospital wings for weeks.
Yeah, exactly those. And these elite human doctors, they hit a brick wall. I mean, they only managed to accurately diagnose the patient about 20% of the time.
Which is, honestly terrifying when you think about it.
It really is. But now, imagine that just yesterday, an artificial intelligence system looked at those exact same sequential cases.
Under the exact same conditions.
Yes, the exact same conditions. And it solved 85.5% of them.
Wow. I mean, that 85.5% versus 20% metric, it's literally an earthquake.
Yeah.
It is the absolute dividing line between the medicine of the past and, well, the medicine of the future.
So, welcome to a highly specialized edition of our show, an AI Unraveled Special. Today, we are stepping into the roles of two senior AI strategists.
Right.
And we're guiding you through what is undeniably a watershed moment in global technology.
Oh, absolutely. The timing on this analysis couldn't be more critical, honestly.
Yeah, because our mission for this deep dive is just laser focused. We are looking at the transformation of the clinical encounter.
Which is a fancy way of saying we're completely tearing down how artificial intelligence is moving out of the lab.
Right. It's bypassing the standard administrative tasks and it's walking right into the examination room with you.
Yeah, we are talking about fundamentally rewriting the doctor-patient relationship from the ground up.
We have a stack of incredibly dense, highly technical evidence today. Our primary source material is a comprehensive 2026 roadmap document.
And it's titled Health Tech AI Copilot to Superintelligence.pdf.
Right. And we are breaking this down right now because, as of yesterday, March 12th, 2026, Microsoft officially launched Copilot Health.
Yeah, and we need to stress this. This is not a closed beta test. It's not some controlled laboratory experiment. This is live.
It is out in the wild, which, necessitates a really clear distinction about what we are actually analyzing today.
Exactly, because as AI strategists, when we look at the telemetry of the industry right now, what we are seeing is a profound paradigm shift.
Yeah, because for the last few years, the tech sector has been caught up in this chaotic, almost philosophical race toward AGI.
Right, artificial general intelligence.
Right, the idea was to build a single omnipotent machine brain that could write Python code, compose a sonnet, and solve quantum physics all at once.
Yeah, and if that general AI hallucinates a bit while writing a marketing email, whatever, you get a weird sentence, the stakes are super low.
But the moment you apply that to a patient's life...
the stakes become absolute. It's life or death.
Exactly. So the launch of Copilot Health signals this deliberate pivot away from that chaotic AGI race.
Yeah, the focus has aggressively shifted toward bounded, highly regulated, domain-specific systems.
We are officially entering the era of what they call medical superintelligence.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because medical superintelligence sounds like a term straight out of a Michael Crichton sci-fi novel.
It really does. But looking through the sources, it is actually a very deliberate operational doctrine.
Yeah, it's heavily emphasized by Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI. He calls it humanist superintelligence.
Which is a fascinating structural approach, and it's now become a concrete product reality.
Right.
The core premise of the Suleyman doctrine is that society doesn't actually need an infinitely capable, autonomous, generalist AI.
Because it carries inherent unpredictable behaviors.
Exactly. What the world actually requires are highly specialized systems that drastically exceed human cognitive limits within very bounded critical sectors.
And he specifically targets medicine and clean energy for this.
Right. These systems are designed to be vastly superior to human calculation, but entirely subordinate to human control.
So to understand why this is such a massive leap forward from the early chatbots of, say, 2023 or 2024, we need to look at Daniel Kahneman's concept.
Oh yeah, System 1 versus System 2 thinking.
Exactly. If you've read his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, you know the analogy. System 1 is intuitive. It's automatic. Instantaneous.
Like when someone asks you what 2 plus 2 is.
Right. You don't calculate it. You just know it's 4. It's immediate pattern recognition.
And that is exactly the architecture of the previous generations of artificial intelligence.
They were basically just rapid pattern matching engines.
Yeah, at their core. When you asked an early language model a medical question, it wasn't reasoning at all.
It was essentially playing an incredibly sophisticated game of autocomplete.
Right. It was just guessing the next most mathematically plausible word in a medical dialogue.
Based on, what, the billions of words it ingested during its training on the open internet?
Exactly. So if we use a human analogy, System 1 AI is like a first-year medical student who has brute force memorized a textbook.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so if you ask them a textbook question, they blurt out the textbook answer instantly.
But if you put them in a chaotic emergency room,
Right. With a patient who has 3 different interacting diseases, they panic.
they just guess based on what sounds familiar.
Exactly. But the 2026 reality, the architecture driving Copilot Health, utilizes System 2 thinking.
And in human terms, System 2 is the slow, deliberate, analytical processing you use when you're trying to solve a complex algebraic equation.
Or when you're trying to parallel park in a really tight space.
Yes, it requires intense focus, multi-step logic, and the ability to hold conflicting ideas in your head simultaneously.
Right.
But how does a cluster of silicon chips actually do System 2 thinking? I mean, structurally, how do you force a computer to think slowly?
Well, developers achieve this through what is called test-time computation and multi-step inference.
Okay, so instead of generating the first mathematically likely answer,
The AI is physically forced to pause its output. It thinks iteratively.
meaning it formulates a differential diagnosis first.
Yes, a ranked list of possible conditions. It actively searches for missing information.
It calculates the physical and financial costs of ordering a specific lab test.
Exactly. Only after cycling through all of those analytical steps does it actually formulate a response to the user.
What's fascinating here is that the goal isn't just to build a digital version of your local general practitioner.
Right. The objective, the actual definition of medical superintelligence in this context, is to synthesize the combined depth of every single medical subspecialty.
The literature, the analytical power, all of it.
Yes, into a singular instantaneous intelligence layer.
Just think about the friction of the real world. If you have a complex condition, your GP refers you to a cardiologist.
And you wait 3 weeks for that appointment.
Right. The cardiologist runs a test, gets confused, and refers you to a rheumatologist.
And boom, you wait another month.
And these specialists rarely speak directly to each other. They communicate through brief, delayed, often incomplete notes in your file.
But a System 2 superintelligence is essentially the cardiologist, the endocrinologist, the rheumatologist, and the neurologist all standing in the exact same room.
Looking at your physiological data simultaneously.
And debating the outcome in milliseconds?
It elevates the technology from a sophisticated search engine to a proactive, highly analytical diagnostic partner.
Absolutely.
Wait, I have to push back here.
Okay, go ahead.
Because everything we are talking about relies on the system actually being correct.
Right.
We know that early large language models hallucinated. They made things up with absolute terrifying confidence.
Yeah, they did.
And an AI hallucination in a clinical setting isn't a funny software glitch. It is lethal.
Definitely.
If it tells a patient to double their heart medication based on a hallucinated interaction, people die. So how on earth did they solve the hallucination problem?
Well, that safety threshold is exactly why Copilot Health couldn't just use a standard generative model.
They had to fix it at the root.
Yeah, they had to eradicate the hallucination problem entirely at the architectural level. And to do this, Microsoft utilized an advanced RAG architecture.
RAG. That stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but if it's still fundamentally a language model, isn't it still just guessing the next word? How does RAG actually stop it from lying confidently?
So in a standard model, the AI generates text based purely on its internal latent neural weights.
The hazy connections it formed during its initial training.
Right. It relies on its memory, and as we know, memory is fallible. But with this advanced ARG architecture, Copilot Health is strictly prohibited from inventing medical advice from its latent memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Instead, it is anchored to verified medical corpuses. It operates under a deep, exclusive licensing agreement with Harvard Medical School.
Wait, really? Harvard?
Yes, utilizing expert written answer cards and peer-reviewed data curated from across 50 different countries.
So instead of trying to remember the answer from a vast, messy internet brain, it physically goes to a highly restricted, perfectly accurate digital library.
Yes. It pulls the specific medical journal article, reads it, and then uses its language skills to summarize that specific article for you.
And crucially, it provides determinative, auditable citations.
Exactly. When it gives you an insight, it generates direct, clickable links to the underlying peer-reviewed materials.
So a human doctor, or the patient themselves, can click that link and independently verify the exact scientific study the AI used to form its conclusion.
Right. It leaves a perfect mathematical paper trail.
Okay, so RAG solves the hallucination problem by giving the AI a perfect medical textbook.
Yes.
But a perfect textbook is completely useless if the AI is blind to the patient's actual body.
Well, yeah, the AI needs data. It needs to know what is happening inside you.
But human medical data is a notoriously fragmented disaster. How does Copilot get eyes on the patient?
That is the foundational challenge of personalized digital medicine. Your primary care doctor uses one software system.
The local hospital uses another.
Your dentist uses a third, and your smartwatch is tracking your sleep in a totally separate walled garden.
The AI can't be a super diagnostician if it only has access to 10% of your medical history.
Right. So how does the underlying architecture actually solve this data fragmentation problem? Microsoft recognized they couldn't build bespoke point-to-point connections with every single doctor's office in America.
Yeah, that would take decades of negotiation and cost billions of dollars.
Exactly. Instead, they focused on massive ecosystem interoperability. They partnered with an entity called HealthX.
HealthX.
Yeah, which acts as the secure data retrieval engine. Through HealthX, Copilot Health pulls real-time data from over 50,000 U.S. hospitals and provider organizations.
50,000 hospitals. I mean, the logistics of that are hard to comprehend. How are they physically standardizing and moving that much data?
They're leveraging national interoperability protocols, specifically the TEFCA network.
TEFCA, Trusted Exchange Framework and Common Agreement.
You got it. It spans over 12,000 healthcare organizations. But the engine that actually makes this readable for an AI is the use of RESTful FHIR APIs.
Yeah, the sources kept mentioning FHIR APIs. FHIR. What exactly is that, and why is it better than how hospitals used to share data?
Okay, so in the past, if you wanted your medical records transferred to a new specialist, the hospital would essentially send a massive, unstructured document blob.
A giant PDF with hundreds of pages of messy handwritten notes, fax lab results, and administrative jargon.
Exactly. If you fed that to an AI, it would have to use optical character recognition to read the entire blob and just try to guess what mattered.
Which sounds incredibly error-prone.
It was. FHIR APIs completely changed that. FHIR stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources.
Right.
They allow the AI to query specific, highly structured clinical data points.
So instead of asking for, like, John's entire 500-page medical file, the AI uses a FHIR endpoint to essentially ask a database query.
Right.
Like, give me John's discrete lipid panel results from October 12th.
Or give me the specific milligram dosage of the statin he was prescribed in 2024.
Exactly. It grabs granular, structured data that a machine can instantly compute.
And before any of this happens, the user has to go through a highly streamlined, secure biometric and government ID verification flow.
You prove exactly who you are. You grant explicit, revocable consent.
And then the system generates a secure health wallet within the Copilot infrastructure.
That wallet becomes the persistent, organized home for all those precise FHIR data pulls.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense for the hospital records.
Yeah.
But here is my major architectural question. We are talking about synthesizing static hospital records with dynamic wearable data.
All right.
How on earth does an AI synthesize an annual blood test from last year which is just a static snapshot in time with the minute-by-minute continuous heart rate and temperature data coming off my Apple Watch or my Oura Ring.
You are hitting on the core technical miracle of this entire system: multimodal data fusion. An annual physical tells you how your biology was functioning on one specific Tuesday at 10 in the morning.
But your wearable devices are providing continuous, relentless time series data.
Heart rate variability, continuous glucose monitoring, respiratory rates during sleep.
But the math has to be so different. One is a highly structured lab report with chemical markers, and the other is a continuous stream of electrical signals from a piece of consumer hardware on your wrist.
Yeah, and that extreme data dimensionality combined with highly irregular sampling rates, it completely breaks traditional AI models.
They just crash.
Traditional architectures just crash when you try to feed them that much asynchronous information. To solve this, Microsoft deployed a proprietary medical time series foundation model called MIRA.
MIRA. And it was pre-trained on a staggering 454 billion data points, right?
Yes, spanning everything from intensive care unit physiological signals to routine outpatient hospital logs.
454 billion data points. But how does MRA actually align the data mathematically?
What do you mean?
Well, because my smartwatch checks my heart rate every 3 minutes, but I only get my cholesterol checked once every 365 days.
Right. So MIRA uses 3 core technical innovations to execute this fusion. The first is called CT-ROPE.
Wait, you lost me at CT-ROPE.
It stands for Continuous Time Rotary Positional Encoding.
If traditional AI hates irregular data, is CT-ROPE just stamping a time on the data? Or is it actively changing the math?
So traditional AI models expect data to arrive in perfectly uniform intervals. Think of it like frames in a movie reel.
Every frame is exactly a fraction of a second apart.
Right. If you give a traditional model irregular data, like a frame today, a frame in 3 weeks, a frame in 4 seconds, it loses its sense of time entirely.
Okay, that makes sense.
CT-ROPE fixes this by embedding the irregular timestamps directly into the mathematical geometry of the data stream.
So it preserves the temporal distance.
Exactly. It understands the vast mathematical space between a sporadic doctor visit and a continuous stream of smartwatch data without losing the timeline.
It's like watching a movie where some frames are a millisecond apart and the next frame is 3 weeks later. But the AI still understands the exact pacing of the story.
Perfect analogy.
What's the second innovation?
The frequency specialized mixture of experts, or MOE.
MOE, okay.
When data enters the MIRA system, it doesn't all go to the same computational brain. MIRA routes the data through highly specialized paths based on its temporal dynamics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, high-frequency waveforms, like a continuous ECG coming off your Apple Watch, are routed to one vast network of computational experts trained entirely on rapid fluctuations.
But low-frequency, long-horizon data.
Like that yearly cholesterol panel or a bone density scan, that is routed to a completely separate subset of experts specialized in long-term metabolic trends.
So it's delegating the fast data to the sprinters and the slow data to the marathon runners, computationally speaking.
Exactly.
That is brilliant.
And the third pillar is perhaps the most incredible piece of math in the entire document: the continuous dynamics extrapolation block, which utilizes neural ordinary differential equations.
Or neural ODEs.
Right.
Okay, neural ODEs. Explain the mechanics of that. What is the AI actually doing with those equations?
Think of neural ODEs like watching a baseball being thrown through the air.
Okay.
If you watch the pitcher throw the ball, and then you close your eyes for 2 seconds while the ball is in midair, you still know exactly where it will be when you open your eyes.
Because you understand the physics, the momentum, and the trajectory of the ball.
Exactly. The AI does this with your biology. It mathematically extrapolates your physiological trajectory to fill in the gaps between your actual medical visits.
So if I saw the doctor in January, and then again in June, the neural ODEs are calculating the momentum of my cholesterol or my blood sugar to figure out what my latent physiological state was doing in March and April.
Yes, it calculates the biological reality of the days you didn't go to the doctor, based on the fusion of your wearable data and your established clinical baseline.
It allows the AI to forecast disease progression and predict your physiological status at any arbitrary future timestamp.
Right.
That is mind-bending.
Yeah.
It is mathematically simulating your body in the background.
It really is. And once all of this data is harmonized by MIRA, it gets passed to the medical inference layer.
The source material notes this is built on the lineage of Microsoft's BioGPT models.
Yeah, these are domain-specific generative transformers. They aren't trained on random Reddit posts or Wikipedia articles.
They are pre-trained extensively on massive biomedical literature databases like PubMed.
Exactly. Their entire neural structure is optimized for the language of biology.
And their job is to translate all this raw time series math into actual clinical reasoning.
Right.
The document mentions end-to-end relation extraction. This is where I truly marveled at the capability.
Oh, it's wild.
Relation extraction allows the AI to autonomously identify causal links. So if a clinical note from your physical says you reported a strange new symptom, say chronic joint pain, the AI combs through your entire history.
It looks at a chemical compound you were prescribed 6 months ago by a different doctor and autonomously identifies that the chemical is the statistical cause of the joint pain.
It acts as the ultimate biomedical detective.
Spotting correlations across massive data sets that a human doctor rushing through a 15-minute appointment might easily miss because the data is buried on page 40 of a PDF.
And finally, it translates all of this highly technical medical jargon into plain language summaries so the patient can actually understand their own health.
Right.
So we have the verified medical textbook through ARAB. We have the continuous data fusion through MIRA. It's a monumental architectural achievement.
It is.
But gathering the data is only the setup. The true revolution, the mechanism that allows it to hit that 85.5% accuracy rate, is how the AI actually thinks about that data once it has it.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
We are talking about the MAI Diagnostic Orchestrator, or MAI-DxO.
This is the control layer that enacts that System 2 reasoning we discussed earlier.
It is model agnostic, meaning it sits above the raw intelligence models and actively directs their workflow.
And it doesn't just use one brain to solve a medical case. It uses a multi-agent chain of debate.
It constructs a virtual diagnostic panel of 5 distinct AI agents, all arguing with each other in real time.
The division of labor here is what shatters the human benchmarks. Let's role-play a scenario to understand exactly how this chain of debate functions in the real world.
Okay, set the scene.
Imagine a 45-year-old patient presents to a clinic with a deeply confusing set of symptoms. Intermittent fevers, a very specific type of rash on their torso, and a recent history of mild cognitive slips.
Like forgetting words, losing their train of thought.
Exactly.
A nightmare for a general practitioner because those symptoms could be 100 different things.
Right. So the data hits the MAI-DxO system. The first agent to wake up is Dr. Hypothesis, the differential diagnostician.
And its sole job is to take that incoming evidence and maintain a dynamically ranked probability list of potential diseases.
Dr. Hypothesis looks at the fever, the rash, and the cognitive slips. It instantly generates a list of 30 possible causes.
It ranks Lyme disease at the top, followed by early onset dementia, followed by a complex autoimmune disorder like systemic lupus erythematosus.
And it constantly reshuffles this ranking every time a new piece of data enters the system.
But Dr. Hypothesis can't order tests. It just ranks theories.
Exactly. That brings in the second agent, the clinical inquirer.
This agent looks at Dr. Hypothesis's list and selects the highest value, most logical next test to eliminate the maximum amount of diagnostic uncertainty.
The inquirer doesn't just blindly order every test in the hospital. It calculates probabilities.
It says, if I order a specific autoantibody blood panel and it comes back negative, I can completely eliminate lupus and 6 other autoimmune diseases from the top 10 list.
So it formally requests that blood test.
And while the inquirer and Dr. Hypothesis are working, the third agent steps in, and this might be the most crucial one.
Oh, absolutely. The clinical skeptic.
Its entire job is to actively search the patient's data for contradictions, biases in reasoning, and alternative edge case explanations.
It is the designated devil's advocate.
As Dr. Hypothesis pushes for Lyme disease, the clinical skeptic combs through the patient's historical wearable data.
It flags a smartwatch sleep record from 3 years ago showing severe sleep apnea and notes that the patient hasn't been in a geographical region endemic to ticks in 5 years.
So the skeptic argues Lyme disease does not fit the geographical timeline, and the cognitive slips are far more likely correlated to long-term hypoxia from untreated sleep apnea.
It actively prevents the system from getting tunnel vision.
Which is a massive cognitive trap for human doctors who lock onto a diagnosis too early.
Exactly. Then we have the fourth agent, which hospital administrators will absolutely love, the financial auditor.
This agent monitors the accumulating financial cost of the simulated laboratory tests and imaging studies requested by the inquirer.
Its job is to optimize healthcare expenditures and strictly prevent test bloat.
So if the inquirer suddenly demands a full-body PE scan to look for hidden inflammation, the financial auditor steps in and blocks the request.
It argues a PET scan costs $3,000. Before we authorize that, you must order a $40 C-reactive protein blood test.
If the CRP is negative, the PE scan is statistically unnecessary. It enforces financial discipline.
And finally, the fifth agent, the safety controller.
It ensures strict adherence to basic clinical safety guidelines and contraindications.
If the inquirer decides to order a contrast MRI, the safety controller checks the patient's historical records.
It finds a dental record from 2018 noting a mild allergy to a specific chemical dye.
Right. It flags the MRI order and alters the protocol to ensure the patient doesn't go into anaphylactic shock.
The agents debate, they challenge each other, they optimize the cost, and they protect the patient.
It is a high-stakes, continuous medical escape room happening in milliseconds.
And this brings us back to that staggering benchmark we mentioned at the top of the show. How did they actually prove this works?
The sources detail the SD bench, or sequential diagnosis benchmark.
This was the ultimate proving ground for the MAI-DxO orchestrator.
The benchmark utilized 304 highly complex, real-world clinico-pathological cases drawn directly from the New England Journal of Medicine.
These are not straightforward cases of strep throat or a broken arm. These are the mysteries that confound entire hospital wards.
But they didn't just hand the AI the whole patient file at once, right? Because that's not how reality works.
A doctor doesn't magically know the result of a blood test they haven't ordered yet.
Exactly. To perfectly mimic the real world, the researchers used a gatekeeper model.
The gatekeepers actively withheld patient information.
It only released specific lab results or imaging findings if the MAI-DxO orchestrator explicitly, logically, and correctly asked for them.
So the virtual diagnostic panel goes to work. Dr. Hypothesis theorizes, the inquirer asks the gatekeeper for a blood test, the skeptic argues against the results, the financial auditor watches the budget.
And the results, they are hard to wrap your head around.
The AI orchestrator achieved an 85.5% diagnostic accuracy rate on these incredibly complex sequential cases.
And the control group, a panel of highly experienced human generalist physicians.
Under the exact same sequential gate-kept conditions, the human doctors hit a wall at an approximately 20% accuracy rate.
85.5% versus 20%.
But what about the cost? Because an AI could just cheat by acting like Dr. House with an unlimited budget, ordering $1 million worth of tests for every patient until it finds the answer.
It didn't, and that's where the financial auditor agent proved its worth. The multi-agent AI drove the average diagnostic cost per case down to approximately $2,400.
And the human doctors, trying to solve the exact same puzzles, spent about $3,000 per case.
And as a point of comparison, they also ran the test with just a base, unorchestrated large language model.
An AI without the 5-agent debate system to rein it in. What happened there?
The unorchestrated model just blindly guessed, panicked, and overordered every test imaginable, wasting around $8,000 per case.
It proves that the intelligence isn't just in the model's memory, it's in the orchestration of the workflow.
Exactly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this metric completely changes the global economy of healthcare. What this architecture does is decouple diagnostic intelligence from marginal labor costs.
Consider the alternative reality of healthcare today. There has always been a brutal paradox: accessibility versus depth.
Deep, specialized medical expertise is scarce. It is exorbitantly expensive to train a specialist.
Therefore, that expertise is geographically restricted to elite academic medical centers in major metropolitan cities.
If you live in a rural area, you simply do not have access to a panel of 5 world-class specialists to debate your mysterious symptoms.
You get an overburdened generalist who has 15 minutes to see you, and if they don't know the answer, you are out of luck.
But with MAI-DxO, spinning up a virtual panel of world-class, specialized AI agents to evaluate a complex patient costs mere dollars in cloud compute power.
It entirely resolves the accessibility versus depth paradox. Anyone, anywhere on the globe with a smartphone, theoretically has access to an 85.5% accuracy rate diagnostic team.
The democratization of elite medical reasoning.
It is a stunning realization.
It really is. But before we dive into the massive legal and privacy implications of handing a superintelligence our most intimate biological data, because that is the elephant in the room, we need to take a quick pause.
Good idea.
Because as AI begins to manage the staggering complexity of our genomic and biometric data, the noise of the hype cycle around these technologies can be overwhelming. It is hard to know what is a real architectural breakthrough and what is just an inflated press release. Our sponsor, DjamgaMind, filters that noise into 60-second audio intelligence. They deliver highly curated, ultra-concise briefings on the tech and business trends that actually matter, helping you stay briefed without the distractions.
Highly recommend checking them out.
If you want to dive even deeper into topics like this without any interruptions, head over to the DjamgaMind ads-free feed to get premium access to all our deep dives.
All right, let's get back into it.
Let's bring the timeline back to the reality of March 2026. We have an orchestration system that is objectively cheaper and mathematically 4 times more accurate than a human doctor on complex cases.
Right.
But none of this matters. Absolutely zero of this technological marvel matters if you don't trust the platform with your most intimate genomic and biometric data.
That trust deficit is the single biggest barrier to mass adoption in the industry.
By 2026, the concentration of intensely personal data inside these AI platforms poses unprecedented privacy risks.
We are not talking about your search history for running shoes. We are talking about permanent genomic markers, real-time physiological stress indicators, nocturnal heart rates.
In deeply personal queries about symptoms people might be too embarrassed to tell a human doctor.
Which is why the regulatory constraints and the data sovereignty architectures are the primary battleground right now.
So how is Microsoft trying to convince the public that Copilot Health is a secure vault and not a corporate vacuum cleaner harvesting your biology?
They lead with what they call the non-training clause. This is the foundational pillar of their security framework.
Okay, what does that actually mean?
Microsoft explicitly and contractually guarantees that user health data, your uploaded electronic health records, your smartwatch telemetry, and every single question you type into the chat interface will never be used to train, fine-tune, or reinforce its foundational AI models.
Meaning your data doesn't become part of the collective brain of the AI.
Right.
But how do they guarantee that technically? Because in the early days of language models, we saw data leakage all the time.
Yeah, that was a huge problem.
A developer would type a sensitive corporate secret into a prompt. The model would subtly adjust its neural weights based on that text, and a week later, it would spit that secret out to a random user in another country.
To physically prevent data leakage, Microsoft utilizes strict tenant boundaries and cryptographic enclaves.
Let's explain it like a 5 rule here. What exactly is a cryptographic enclave?
Think of it as a digital quarantine room built directly into the silicon of the server.
Okay.
When you open a conversation within Copilot Health, your data is moved into this isolated room. The AI enters the room to do the math and answer your question.
But the door is locked from the outside.
Exactly. The data is heavily encrypted at rest in Azure databases and encrypted in transit during inference.
Once the session is over, the data inside the room is wiped.
And the AI leaves without retaining a single memory of what it just processed. It is entirely isolated from the general Microsoft Copilot system you might use to write code or draft an email.
It's a quarantine zone for your medical data. They call this concept the Sovereign Health Vault.
And looking through the source material, there is one feature that I think represents the ultimate user empowerment.
The algorithmic kill switch.
Yes, the right to delete. True data sovereignty means the locus of control has to shift permanently away from the tech giant and back to the individual patient.
If you decide tomorrow that you are uncomfortable with the AI tracking your heart rate, you have granular, absolute control.
You hit the kill switch, and the system instantly severs the APIs connecting Apple Health, your Fitbit, and your hospital networks.
And crucially, it irrevocably scrubs your digital twin from the active environment.
It's not just hidden from your view, it is cryptographically destroyed across all servers. The patient is the ultimate arbiter of their biology.
Microsoft's intense focus on these strict privacy measures is directly tied to the highly complex 2026 legal landscape.
They are operating in a deeply fragmented legal minefield. We have to look at how the law has struggled to keep up with the technology.
Let's start with HIPAA, because that's the law everyone knows. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
Right.
When people think of medical privacy in the United States, they think of HIPAA. But the sources point out a massive glaring gap in how HIPAA applies today.
The fundamental problem is that HIPAA's jurisdiction is narrowly restricted to what the law explicitly calls covered entities.
That means hospitals, human doctors, health clearinghouses, and their direct business associates.
HIPAA was written decades ago. It was absolutely not designed to regulate consumer-generated health data harvested by wellness apps, smartwatches, or general-purpose AI platforms.
So if my doctor leaves my paper medical file on a park bench, the federal government comes down on them with a massive HIPAA violation.
Oh yeah, huge fines.
But if I ask a consumer AI app why I have a strange rash on my arm and that app sells my query and my photo to a pharmaceutical advertiser, HIPAA doesn't even apply.
In many cases, no. And as tech giants evolved into the world's largest personal health data repositories, progressive states realized the federal government was moving far too slowly to protect consumers.
So states stepped into the void and spearheaded stringent consumer health privacy frameworks on their own.
The big ones being California's Consumer Privacy Rights Act, Florida's Digital Bill of Rights, and Washington's My Health, My Data Act.
And what's wild about these state laws is how they completely redefine what health data actually is. It's not just a blood test result anymore.
The legal definition has been expanded to include algorithmic inferences,
Which is a massive shift in liability. An algorithmic inference is a deduction the AI makes based on seemingly benign digital behavior.
For example, if your phone's GPS tracks you visiting a specific address multiple times, and the AI infers that the address is a reproductive clinic or an oncology center, that location data combined with the AI's algorithmic deduction is now legally protected health data.
Or, if I am doing late-night AI queries about specific disease symptoms, the AI's inference about my health status based on my typing patterns is protected.
That is a massive expansion of legal liability for tech companies.
And the federal government is finally catching up to the states. The Federal Trade Commission is aggressively utilizing the health breach notification rule to penalize non-HIPAA entities.
Furthermore, the final rule aligning 42 CFR Part 2 with the HIPAA privacy rule established the lawful holder doctrine.
The lawful holder doctrine. That sounds heavy. What does it actually do to a tech company?
It stipulates that if any technology platform receives highly sensitive information like substance use disorder records or mental health histories from a user, that platform instantly becomes a lawful holder.
They were suddenly burdened with strict legal obligations against unauthorized disclosure or use in legal proceedings.
It doesn't matter if they are a traditional hospital or a Silicon Valley tech company. The moment they hold the data, they hold the liability.
So, what does this all mean? When you synthesize all this legal risk state laws redefining inferences, FTC enforcement, the lawful holder doctrine, it perfectly explains Microsoft's cautious orchestrated product strategy.
It is exactly why they segment Copilot Health from their main AI products. It's why there are profound disclaimers everywhere stating this is not intended to diagnose or treat diseases.
They want to provide the superintelligent insights, but they are desperately trying to dodge the liability of formally practicing medicine.
They are orchestrating data, not delivering care.
Which gives us the perfect lens to examine the competitive landscape, because Microsoft isn't operating in a vacuum.
As AI strategists looking at the board in March 2026, the tech titans are clashing, and they're taking radically different architectural approaches to consumer health AI based on their unique corporate moats.
We have to analyze how Amazon, Apple, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are positioning themselves. Their distinct go-to-market philosophies reveal exactly how they see the future of the healthcare industry.
Let's start with Amazon, because their play is incredibly aggressive and logistically heavy.
While Microsoft is playing the role of the software orchestrator, Amazon is focused on vertical clinical integration.
They want to physically own the entire pipeline from end to end.
In March 2026, Amazon fundamentally expanded its health AI assistant. Previously, their AI capabilities were locked behind the proprietary One Medical app.
You had to be a paying subscriber to even access it.
Now they've pulled the health AI directly into the main Amazon.com app and mobile application. It is instantly accessible to tens of millions of users without a subscription barrier.
And their differentiator is physical infrastructure. The friction of traditional healthcare is immense.
You have to call for an appointment, drive to a clinic, drive to a pharmacy, and wait in line.
Unlike Microsoft, which just gives you insights and tells you to go talk to your own doctor, Amazon physically owns the doctors and the logistics network.
The Amazon Health AI can review your labs, use its intelligence to provide medical context, and then seamlessly book a direct telehealth or in-person visit with an Amazon One medical physician right inside the chat window.
You chat with the AI, it suspects you have strep throat based on your symptoms, and a photo, One medical doctor pops on screen to confirm the diagnosis, and then the loop continues.
The AI routes that prescription through Amazon Pharmacy, and it is drone delivered or brought by an Amazon truck to your doorstep in 2 hours.
It is a completely closed-loop healthcare ecosystem. They are essentially turning healthcare into prime delivery.
They are even using the AI triage agent as a loss leader, offering Prime members free telehealth consultations for common conditions just to funnel them into the pharmacy network.
And on the enterprise side, AWS launched Amazon Connect Health for ambient listening and medical coding to challenge Microsoft's dominance in hospital administrative software.
Now, compare that massive, sprawling logistics operation to Apple's philosophy. Apple doesn't want to own clinics or ship pills.
Apple is playing an entirely different game. Their approach is tied fundamentally to hardware sales and an uncompromising stance on cryptographic privacy.
They have architected a bifurcated computing model, on-device intelligence, combined with private cloud compute, or PCC.
The hardware privacy mode. Explain exactly how this bifurcated model works for a user wearing an Apple Watch.
The vast majority of continuous biometric monitoring, your ECG classifications, your sleep tracking, your cycle logs, never leaves your physical device.
It is processed entirely locally on Apple Silicon within your iPhone or watch. It requires zero cloud connection, meaning it is immune to network interception.
But local chips, even advanced Apple Silicon, aren't powerful enough to run a massive trillion-parameter System 2 reasoning model like MAI-DxO.
What physically happens when the user asks Siri a highly complex diagnostic question that requires superintelligence?
That request is offloaded to the private cloud compute infrastructure. The PCC runs on custom Apple servers featuring secure enclaves and secure boot mechanisms.
When your complex query reaches the cloud, it is strictly ephemeral. It is used exclusively to generate the requested inference.
The microsecond the answer is computed and sent back to your phone, the data is completely destroyed.
Never logged, never stored, never used for training.
Apple guarantees it is physically inaccessible, even to their own personnel. And they actively allow independent security researchers to audit the server code to prove it.
And because they need frontier-level reasoning to power this, they struck a massive $1 billion per year partnership to utilize Google's Gemini models for back-end reasoning.
They use Google's brain while completely shielding the user behind Apple's proprietary hardware mode.
That partnership is fascinating. They are outsourcing the intelligence while owning the privacy layer. Meanwhile, you have the AI pure plays. OpenAI and Anthropic, what is their angle?
OpenAI is leveraging its massive consumer scale. They launched ChatGPT Health as a separate privacy-enhanced hub where users can upload medical records via integrators.
It operates outside the standard ChatGPT environment to ensure queries aren't used for training.
On the enterprise side, they are dominating with GPT 5.2, which is rigorously evaluated against HealthBench, a massive criteria set designed by physicians to measure clinical reasoning safety.
And Anthropic. They always seem to take the more cautious, safety-first route compared to OpenAI.
Anthropic launched Claude for healthcare, and they are deliberately avoiding the consumer fitness integration race entirely. Instead, they are prioritizing bureaucratic friction.
They are targeting the administrative nightmare of payers and hospital providers.
They're going after the boring stuff.
Highly lucrative, boring stuff. Claude specializes in native FHIR development, navigating complex centers for Medicare and Medicaid services coverage databases, and instantly generating prior authorization reviews by cross-referencing patient charts against dense insurance policies.
They're automating the massive back-office bureaucracy of American healthcare.
And finally, we have Google.
Google's strategy is omnipresent multimodal intelligence. Because Google controls the Android operating system and Google Maps, their Med-Gemini models are natively infused into everyday workflows.
For instance, using Gemini reasoning inside Google Maps to plan complex logistical trips for patients needing specialized healthcare facilities.
They don't have Amazon's physical clinics, but their sheer ubiquity ensures they are processing a vast percentage of global health queries.
So as an AI strategist looking at this board, between Amazon's closed-loop logistics delivery, Apple's hardware privacy moat, and Microsoft's agnostic platform orchestration, who actually wins this war?
Ultimately, the raw intelligence capabilities of the models, the parameter counts, the context windows will commoditize. Everyone will have access to a superintelligent reasoning engine eventually.
The winner will be the platform that most seamlessly integrates heterogeneous data, the platform that bridges the gap between the midnight smartwatch alert, the fragmented electronic health record, and the actionable clinical intervention.
Right now, Microsoft's agnostic orchestration approach gives them incredible leverage because they aren't trying to replace the doctor, they're trying to empower them.
Let's bring this all the way down to the human level. Because all of this architecture, all of these benchmarks and legal battles culminate in a single, profoundly human moment. A patient walking into a clinic, sitting on crinkly paper, and talking to a human doctor.
How does this AI actually change that encounter?
Microsoft explicitly calls their approach the next best thing strategy. The goal is not to replace the doctor. The goal is to fix the crippling time constraints and severe information asymmetry of modern medicine.
Because right now, the system is fundamentally broken. A patient walks in highly anxious, armed with a fragmented, poorly remembered narrative.
They say, my chest hurts sometimes and I feel tired. And the doctor, who has exactly 15 minutes to solve the problem, spends 2/3 of the appointment staring at a computer screen, clicking through poorly designed electronic health record interfaces trying to find the patient's history rather than making eye contact.
Copilot Health targets this friction explicitly via the pre-visit briefing. By continuously analyzing your real-time wearable telemetry against your historical lab trends, the AI acts as an intermediary clinical synthesizer before you even walk through the door.
It takes that vague complaint, my chest hurts and I feel tired, and structures it into a chronologically accurate, highly technical clinical summary for the physician.
Patient presents with elevated nocturnal resting heart rate correlating with recent prescription changes and disrupted sleep architecture, alongside intermittent chest pain. It hands the doctor exactly what they need to know instantly in their own language.
And crucially, it arms the patient with a prioritized list of contextually relevant questions. It shifts the entire medical consultation from a frantic, stressful data-gathering exercise into a high-level, empathetic, strategic discussion about treatment. The doctor can actually look at the patient again.
There is a fascinating data point in the sources about the emotional reality of this technology. Microsoft analyzed over 500,000 interactions during their testing phases, and they noticed a stark temporal trend. Symptom queries and emotional health questions heavily spike late at night.
The 2 a.m. anxiety spike. It's the exact moment when traditional healthcare infrastructure is completely closed, doctors are unreachable, the patient is alone in the dark, their heart is racing, they are doom-scrolling through WebMD, wondering if their symptom is dangerous or benign.
The AI steps in as the midnight triage nurse. It captures the patient's acute concerns at the moment of highest anxiety. It analyzes the biometric data coming off their watch, determines if it's an emergency that requires a 911 call, structures the narrative, and holds it perfectly ready for the next available clinical encounter. It absorbs the panic and replaces it with a structured plan.
And that, fundamentally, is the true transformation of the clinical encounter. It brings continuous, super-intelligent reasoning to the moments when patients are most vulnerable.
It has been an incredible journey through this material. We started by unpacking the System 2 reasoning of Copilot Health, exploring how the industry moved from fast, hallucination-prone guessing to slow, deliberate, super-intelligent logic using ARGE architecture. We looked at how the MIRA Foundation model uses spatial mathematics to fuse watch data with blood tests, and how the MAI-DxO virtual diagnostic panel shatters human benchmarks, hitting 85.5% accuracy through a continuous chain of debate.
We navigated the deeply fragmented legal landscape of HIPAA gaps and state laws, exploring how the sovereign health vault and cryptographic enclaves attempt to build consumer trust in an era of algorithmic inferences. And we analyzed how the titans of tech, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft are waging war over the architectural future of medicine, each leveraging their unique corporate moats.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. The next time you glance at your smartwatch tracking your pulse or step into a clinic to give a routine blood sample, recognize that you are participating in the largest architectural shift in the history of medicine. Your physiological digital twin is already being constructed, data point by data point.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, something that wasn't explicitly resolved in the sources but looms over everything we've discussed today. We know that the MAI-DxO orchestrator hits an 85.5% accuracy rate on complex medical cases, while elite human generalists hit 20%. As that gap continues to widen, as the AI becomes cheaper and unequivocally more accurate at diagnosing complex disease, how long until a human doctor choosing not to consult an AI is legally considered clinical malpractice?
Thank you for joining us on this AI Unraveled special deep dive. We'll see you next time.
That concludes our special report on the medical superintelligence roadmap. The signal for today is domain-specific reasoning. We are shifting from bots that answer to agents that think. This episode was made possible by DjamgaMind. If you found this strategic deep dive valuable but want to skip the ads next time, join our premium DjamgaMind ads-free feed on Apple Podcasts. I'm Anna. Until tomorrow, keep unraveling the future.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads, we build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.